the main thing we had was support of administration from the governor's office on down to the commissioner's office, on down to the Draper Correctional Center. We always had the support of the warden himself. That was never in question.
This just keeps getting bigger and bigger, better and better. What was your thinking about the dynamics between institutional teachers and inmate students in a confined setting?
There were no institutional teachers outside of my own project.
Okay.
No education program, no rehabilitation program of any kind outside of our project. They had no funds for it. My NIMH project was renewed again for 3 years after the first 3 years expired. So I brought in a psychologist graduating from Florida University to head that program up, and Dr. Michael Milan. And he continued on with the experimental type program in basic skills, basic education. And he provided the basic education for MDTA students that would be coming over to the industrial area for occupational training, you see. And
so academic and vocational education were being linked together?
Linked, well, it was absolutely linked. The staff that I employed and worked with understood thoroughly that basic education skills are essential. It's true, but without being able to make a living through learning a skill with this population particularly would not ensure success in the free world, you see, upon release. With the project too, we were able to develop a follow-through program we called, following release. So we were able to monitor the effects of this program through the follow-up program and finding out how, and it was just not monitoring, it is also was assisting, because you had the system some out there to get jobs. The parole supervisors were loaded down anyway, and they didn't see that they would be in a position to do expansive work and so forth. We could not manipulate the situation. We could not give therapy to them or counseling to them. So the parole supervisor, that's hands off. That's our job. But you can assist in getting them jobs and so on, which we did, and we were talk to the employers. That was perfectly all right. We could talk to the releasees. That was all right because it had to do with their performance on the job. So we had really no competition between our project and parole authorities, and which could have not been the case if the director of parole said, we want to have nothing to do with it. And this could have happened, and it has happened about the United States also in other settings, I'm sure now. And we could help where we could help. We could even help get jobs to some of them, you see.
So the staff you hired were dedicated. They were applying what they learned to the field of correctional education?
Yeah, none of them had been correctional educators prior to that. They'd been educators. Huh?
That was not an obstacle, though. They were
No. It was not. I tried to hire people who could get along with students and didn't look down upon them, who could communicate with them.
They weren't afraid.
Friendly. No, they were not afraid.
So the staff you hired were dedicated. They were applying what they'd learned to the field of correctional education. They weren't afraid of the students?
Well, we were taught through the warden, nobody should be afraid of the inmate in an institution. And he'd demonstrate that. He'd walk down in the prison with nobody protecting him, And of course, he had also inmates he was working with and he was friendly to. He gave them support, and they knew that. They thought a lot of this warden, because he did what he could to make life better for them and easy for them. And they knew that it was through him that we got an educational program there in the first place. Once in a rare time, you might have some kid who'd get in trouble inside the prison, and he'd have to do some kind of penalty for it. But the warden had a philosophy about that. If they fouled up a little bit and they had to pay a price, he'd put them right back in the same position they were before. And this, frankly, irritated the guards a good deal because they thought he should not be put back in the same position. He's messed up, and and you can never trust him. But the warden had a different philosophy altogether, and so it was an interesting clash there of philosophy and orientation about how to treat prisoners.